Okay, so now we're talking about how we can help children with anxiety. Now, the previous video, we talked about the most common causes of anxiety for children. If you haven't seen that, there's a link in the comments. Watch that video after this one because it's really important to understand that. So the tips for helping children with anxiety, the first one is listen to your children. If children are scared and afraid and are getting all these anxiety or stress symptoms and they don't think they're being listened to, it increases a lot more fear. So spend some time with your child, sit down, listen, and try and understand what they're going through. And there's a couple of little tools we can use to help us to understand and to help them become a bit more aware. So what I usually do is take them back to when they were feeling anxious during the day, get them to close their eyes, get them just to tell you what they could see, what they could hear, and what they could feel. And then explore that feeling. Say to them, that feeling, if that lived in a place in your body, where would that be? And if it had a color, what color would that be? And if it had a shape, what shape would that be? And if you get a little bit of resistance and they say, I don't know, just say, if you did, what would it be? And typically we find negative feelings are red and black and grey, and they've got corners or spikes and they live in the stomach, but it could be the heart, it could be the head. And then to move that away, you could also find out when they felt good over the day and explore those as well. And interestingly, the good feelings are usually orange, yellows, blues, and they're circles and they live in the stomach. And get them to focus on the nice feelings rather than the unwanted ones. If you need help with that, leave a message in the comments and I'll see if I can put a video together to help with that one. Number two, this is so important. Start a daily routine of practice, maybe 10 minutes before and 10 minutes at the end of the day, just to try and get your child into a good mental state. And the best place to find those exercises is in the free anxiety relief pack, and there'll be a link for that in the description as well. Just getting in and practicing moving into a good state works absolute wonders, and also do it when the child starts to feel anxious. If we just do it just when they're feeling awful, it doesn't work anywhere as much. So make sure you get on and do that as a daily practice and just take some time to invest in your child to start making them feel better. Three, we talked about family members with anxiety. Now, if you've got somebody in the family who is anxious, this is where you need to push them to go and get some help, whether it's the GP or the contact us, and that we need to get that behavior down because it's just going to affect the people around them. There's no other way around that other than chucking them out the house, which we don't want to do. So we need to get that behavior down. And if it's yours, invest in the time to get that sorted. Four, make sure that any conflicts, arguments, bad attitudes, things like this, make sure they're out the way. If you need to have a heated discussion with your partner, do that when the child's in bed. However, do be aware they can really, really hear what's going on. I remember when I was a child, when my parents would have discussions, I used to sit there in bed and think, oh, they're arguing about me. It wasn't the case at all. But kids really can over predict what's going on, so be careful with that. Cleaning up and improving the diet. I can't stress enough how important this is. If we feed our bodies rubbish, rubbish comes out. But the first thing to do is to start putting in good foods. And it's recommended now between 5 to 10 servings of fruit and veg a day. Now, for some people, that sounds a lot. For some of us, it's very, very easy. But it's just starting to get the fruit in. Maybe today you introduce an apple, tomorrow an apple and an orange, then a banana, then start getting the vegetables in. It could be frozen, it can be fresh. The difference this makes, and the fiber is so, so important. Next one is adding some water. Now, water is really important. There's parts of the brain that if it's dehydrated, we're much more likely to have anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And if we're having things like high caffeine energy drinks, colas, coffees, these are all diuretics, which is where you drink one and you pee out two. So it actually takes water away. Keeping people hydrated is one of the best things we can do for mood. For an adult, it's about 2 to 3 liters a day, slightly less for children. But if they're exercising a lot or if it's warm, we need to sort that out. And for both food and water, we have a video on healthy eating, and that's also in the description. 7, reduce sugary drinks and processed food. Now, my rule is for good health is 80% of our diet should be nice and healthy, and 20% can be junk and processed food. Now, that's so important that we do that, and you can swap the nasty snacks and treats for fruit. If somebody wants something sweet, within a couple of weeks, they'll prefer the fruit than they will to the processed stuff. But you've got to understand fruit and veg puts lots of nutrients into the system and helps us to work all right. And the processed stuff's got additives, E numbers, preservative, artificial sweeteners, sugars, fats, salts, cause problems. And over time, people do prefer the healthier foods when you start to introduce it. If you need help with that, leave a message in the comment and I'll do a little video about introducing all of that. Number 8, a big one. Make sure you understand exactly what your child is feeling. It's very hard as a parent to understand, but the way you can do that is to sit down nice and calmly and ask them questions. And ask them when they felt sort of nervous or anxious over the day, what happened next. And then you can go off and research, or you can leave a question of how can you get around that situation. If it's a problem at school and it's recurring, you could go to the school and ask, or you can send us a message, whatever it is. But usually we can find a solution to what's causing the problem to stop it becoming a problem. Number 9, reduce screen time and set boundaries. Now, you are the parent, and it's important that you set the diet, you set the boundaries, and screen time should not be more, in my opinion, than an hour a day. Same for adults as well, but most of us go well over that. And for children, we need to cut it down. If sleep's a problem, we shouldn't be touching those screens 2 hours before we go to sleep. We need to cut TV down and games, and we need to put our focus on other things. But set those boundaries. You're the parent. There's lots of places to help you to advise on this, but make sure you keep those screen times down, because for some children, it really does cause problems. And finally, number 10, increase quality time with the child. Now, one of the things I regularly see with problem children and problem adults is if you can get them out into nature, into the forest, the woods, the beaches, and get them off the devices, within about half an hour, they disconnect from the internet and they start to connect with nature. And psychologists are now calling this forest bathing. It's about getting out into the forest, noticing the lovely things around us, playing some good games with the kids, whether it's football, something on the field, frisbee, getting out into nature, spending time out. Exercising is really important because, again, walking brings down cortisol, which reduces anxiety levels. And within 20 minutes, it produces loads of dopamine. And one of the things we see regularly for both adults and children is when we get out into nature and we move, and we do that 2 or 3 times a week, anxiety levels come down like you wouldn't believe. So there's 10 tips for you. Do remember, we've got lots of resources in the description, but if you have any questions or any comments, either click through to the website or just leave them in the comments below, and you'll be amazed at how quickly this sort of thing works.